All right, we're at time. So today I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here. Today is the boring AI show Intern Takeover. I kind of wanted to have a sound effect for that, but then it gets all weird when you're trying to do sound effects on these, meetings. But we're going to get started. I'm going to hand it over to Nick and Sandra, and Nick and Sandra are our winter interns, and they had a very cool project where they were basically building a private ChatGPT for mind over machines. And so they're going to talk about their journey with that. But we're sticking to our standard AI show, boring AI show format. We're going to kick off with the news. And anybody who's paying any attention to the world of AI, you know what the news is. The news is all about Gemini. So Nick and Sandra, I'm going on mute. You guys take it away.
Sure. All right. I'll get started
Thank
here.
you, Tim.
Yeah. So Gemini is this new model from Google. It's the powerhouse of Bard, right? That's what it's going to become. So there's 3 tiers of Gemini right now. There's Ultra, Pro, and Nano. Pro is the only one that's currently deployed to Bard. So if you go over to Bard right now, you totally can try it out, and you'll see how it works for you. Why is it different? Well, it's multimodal. And there's been some multimodal AIs like ChatGPT, but the difference is they have multimodal outputs, not multimodal inputs. And multimodal inputs is kind of how humans work. So if you have a system like input taking in what you're saying and the things it can see and any other inferencing points, you're able to output much better and whole, more circular, rounded answers. Another significant thing with Gemini here is that it's actually the first model to outperform GPT-4. So specifically on a lot of these benchmarks, it's beating ChatGPT-4 or GPT-4 specifically in basically every benchmark. Most significant, I think, is the MMLU benchmark. And this is basically think of like the SATs, but for AI. So they test AI on like a ton of different subjects across a bunch of different topics. And this guy, the Google Gemini Ultra, they're claiming it scores a 90%, which is the first model to ever get above 89.8%, which is the human record for this test. So it's pretty interesting how this is playing out, and I'm really interested to hear what Sandra, you think about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Gemini is such a game changer, and as it outperforms GPT-3 and GPT-4, I think it's a really great tool, and the application is also very vast as it can handle complex written and visual information, generate high-quality code in various programming languages, which is super useful for me as I'm learning Python right now. And it also excels in tasks related to, text, images, audio, and code image. So I think this will be a totally new technology in this AI world.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think since you said you're learning Python, this would definitely be an awesome resource. I mean, Bard is free, so you don't have to pay for it like ChatGPT. Being able to document what you're trying to learn in your syntax for Python, or being able to write up quick readmes for whatever you've written, for whatever reason, then, this is awesome. It's really great for giving you an outline for your code as well. So what Gemini's done is they've actually updated one of the math abilities. So there's something called AlphaCode. AlphaCode 1 is the original Google's math AI model, and I believe the benchmark was 45 or so, 40%. But now they've introduced this basically 2-step version of AlphaCode 2 that has a second step that listens to the output of the math and reviews it and checks hey, did that make sense logically? Is this how a mathematician would answer this? And now they're claiming it's reaching way higher percents for math. And so how does that apply to the world? Math is with everything. So I think it's honestly a really big step forward. AlphaCode 2 specifically in Gemini, and I wonder how this could affect a ton of people learning code like yourself, Sandra, Python. This could be a huge help.
Yeah, I will definitely try Gemini to help me learn Python. And I also couldn't like subscribe to GPT-4 because they're they already stopped letting people subscribing it.
That's right. They cut off the premium subscriptions in a turn of events. That was pretty funny. But yeah, so Gemini, cool stuff. 3 sizes. You got Ultra, Pro, Nano. Nano is coming to the phones as well as Ultra. It's coming to everywhere else in 2024, I believe. It's early January. But Gemini Pro is currently a thing. So yeah, you can try it out on Bard right now. Anyway, moving on.
I definitely agree with you, Nick.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
No worries.
So what do you think the ethical considerations and safety, like bias mitigation and safety evaluations?
Yes. So Gemini, again, just like all these other things, this is all new stuff. It's all happening really fast. I think most people have kind of come to this understanding now that where these tools are at is that they're great for creating outlines. They're great for getting you started. But you can't just expect it to take on your responsibilities entirely. You can't expect it to entirely take over your life. Because at the end of the day, you need to be held accountable for what's going on in a business, right? So Gemini can be really great for helping you do your job and like making your life a lot easier, but it's not Gemini's life, it's your life, right? So any output of Gemini, it didn't do it itself. Someone had to queue it. Someone's responsible for those things. So I think the ethical concerns really don't come down to the technology, but rather the people using it. I don't think the technology is inherently unethical. I think it's mainly the people using it. But that's just my opinion.
And that's exactly what
are you thinking?
Tim told us on the first day.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. So moving on from Gemini, why don't we talk about how we've been able to use AI in our internship a bit? Did you want to maybe get started on that topic?
Yeah, of course. I think working on the large language model Katie for Mom is an awesome experience. And we were tasked with creating a sophisticated language model that could understand and respond to human input, essentially bridging the gap between machines and users in a conversational manner.
Yeah, and it's been a really cool experience. So I don't know, Sandra, do you have any experience working with large language models before this? I know I didn't, so.
Me neither.
Yeah, right. So this was new to us, but we learned it along the way. And it was a multi-step process, right? So first we had to get data from our team members, and sometimes they weren't there. What was like the biggest challenge you'd say you had with that, like getting data from team members if they weren't there? How would you address that issue?
So for that approach, if we need to gather information from different coworkers, I will first check on the Salesforce CRM system that we have to take some ownership, like before I bother our coworkers, because their time are such valuable. And if I couldn't find enough information, I would try to email them and kindly asking them to fill out the missing information for me.
Right, that's right. And I think we even created some Microsoft forms. So we came up with a lot of different ways to get the data for our client story sheet, right? So to build Katie, we needed to get our database first. And to make the database, we need all of our company's client info. So lots of times there'll be people that work on specific projects. They know the answers. So basically, we congregate all that data, or whatever the word is, I can't think of it right now, but get all the data, get together, put it in one sheet, and then from there, we deploy it to Azure on Azure's OpenAI service. And that's been super cool. I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole Azure stuff? I have not had a ton of experience until this internship. So I didn't know how powerful Azure could be with all the different tools. Sandra, what were your
I was
thoughts?
really impressed. I was really impressed when Tim showed us that we can actually ask Azure to produce a short introduction of Katie and
Yeah,
Azure, and we can use that to post on LinkedIn for like recruiting for internships
yeah, that was
with all the
definitely my.
emoji.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry, you go.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So definitely a great example. Being able to infer, and honestly, like Katie wasn't even necessarily trained to do that example, which is so cool. Katie just knows our data, right, and inferred some things. So we asked it to make a seminar thing to get people at colleges interested in interns at Mind Over Machines, and it created a perfect, like in just a second, used our data to, hey, we did this with these clients, we use this technology on this project, and if you think you have a background in these things, maybe you would be a benefit. There's like stuff like that. Where it wasn't actually necessarily trained to do it, I think is super super cool, because it just opens the door with so many different possibilities and so many different ways it could be used. So yeah, I just think it's really cool. And the way how we've been testing that stuff. Do you want to maybe talk about how we've been like doing the Q&A testing?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very interesting. It was like teaching a language to an eager learner, but making sure it understood the nuance of mom's domain. And we encountered instances where the model misunderstood the context, leading to some humorous but wrong interactions.
Yeah, right. So that goes back to that whole 100% accuracy thing and like humans being responsible stuff, right? So yeah, like sometimes we do get some funny outputs that are like, oh, that's we know it's funny because it's full context, but the AI doesn't, right? So it
Yeah.
that's it's good to point that out, that there can be some funny things that happen, and also that that we're still here to catch those, right? So very cool point. I definitely think the Q&A has been like really helpful. That whole Excel document, testing the different ways that people interact with the model is really important, because a lot of people will just be sent this link and be told, hey, we have a new thing, but I don't know what the heck to do with it. So we're like, what do you do? That's what we're trying to figure out, is make sure everyone can interact and inference with this kind of thing without much prerequisite explanation. I think if things are natural and intuitive, then it's already good.
Mm.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like I want to build a seamless conversation with Katie with all the follow-up questions, but there were moments where the Katie just struggled to provide relevant responses.
Yeah, I think what we learned is that it can be really dependent on how you've asked the question. So context is important. I'm trying to like give a good example here. So thinking of questions you might ask for Katie or a similar large language model. If, say, you have a database of projects and clients and information about those projects and clients, it only will know that information if it's been set up properly and like configured correctly. And when it works and it's like tuned correctly, it's able to make these great inferences that I honestly think is going to become like more valuable as people realize, because the inferencing abilities with all your data, you probably have a lot more things in your current databases. If I'm talking to the people listening, if you have a database, you probably have a ton of things going on that could tell you some more stuff that maybe you just aren't looking at, or could be a little hidden perhaps. So I think AI is really, really good at inferring these kind of things and picking up like, hey, wait a minute. AI notices we've used Microsoft 365 across all of these different clients in this specific year. What was going on in that year for Microsoft 365? You know what I mean? So that kind of level of inferencing across like a really large data set, it's just like not possible always with humans. So it's like a huge,
Yeah.
huge, huge benefit of AI. I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And also, I think the advantage of using AI is that it can streamline the communication and improve efficiency and open up new possibility for mom. And it's just a powerful tool in enhancing human capabilities
Right.
rather than just like replacing human, because it can assist us like in client relationships and marketing,
Right.
and even like recruiting.
Yeah, so many different ways. Even down to communication, I really value AI because I personally have dyslexia, and writing can be a bit of a challenge for me. But AI has, basically, if I ever want to write anything and I want to be professional, just ask, hey Jasper, hey AI, hey Bard, hey ChatGPT, whatever I'm using. Format in this way. I want it to sound like this. I'd like to sound like this. Here's the content it should include, and it does it really well. And for someone with dyslexia, it's like really valuable to me. Another way I'd probably I'm gonna go off the rails a little bit here, just for a sec, I promise. So ChatGPT is really great for me for some learning. I'm bringing this up because of the topic you just said with speaking and helping people get stuff done that their senses might be struggling with. Tim, could you give me a hand?
Yeah. No, I was just going to actually jump in. Like, we've heard this time and time again around neurodiversity and how tools like ChatGPT and Bard and tools like Katie can really help with people to collect their thoughts, to help formulate those thoughts and think through. One of the things that, as you guys were kind of talking about prompts and the questions that we ask into Katie, a lot of times people just ask one-shot questions, right? It's just like, I just do a question. But Sandra, as we were kind of going through the experiment of like, let's have Katie write out this recruiting, flyer, one of the things you said was like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. Like, because we asked, set up the data and then format it like this. What are some of the things that you've learned? That's called prompt engineering. What are the things that you've learned or best practices you've seen of how to get the best answers out of large language models?
I think the best answer will be generated after I give them like enough information. For instance, I can first dump them with all the overviews and the requirements I want from the answers, and I'll say like, don't answer first. I will like feed you with all the information, and then I will, after doing that, I will just ask them the simple question or like complex question, to be honest. And they will just provide me with an answer that might not be the perfect one, and I will just ask follow up and revising instructions to Katie.
Right. Yeah. You were about to say something, Tim? Sorry, I saw your mic change.
No, I was going to say, and Nick, I know that you use these tools also to learn and to organize and plan. Sandra was talking about working with Python on this. How do you approach using large language models as a tutor? Because both of you guys came in and you were saying earlier, it's like, have you ever worked with a large language model? Like build it, and let's be clear, like this wasn't just click, 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 done. This was gather the information for the large language model, adjust the settings of the large language model, deploy the large language model, test the large language model. So you guys did a lot more than just interact with ChatGPT.
We've been working on this for about 2 months, right?
Yeah. So how do you use large language models to help you learn and help you kind of face these new challenges, building tools that you'd never worked with before?
I've got a pretty good answer for this one, I think. So I come from definitely a non-traditional background for this industry. I was really into music and audio engineering. And so I'm really familiar with those concepts and all the terminology in that world, but that might not always apply to what's going on here. Now, what's great about with AI is I can tell it that and say, hey, this is my background information. This is what I'm good at. Could you explain this concept to me in a way that I'll understand? And it will like 99% of the time create analogies and really great just teaching points that I just don't think people have ever really realized how valuable they are yet, because I mean, there's ways that these things are able to answer that I think are just so valuable, because normal people might not be trained to communicate in ways that AI can pick up. Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra, how about you? How are you using large language models, in your learning process?
So the LLM can help me to think out of the box. So sometimes I will go to it and ask it to like throw some questions at me, and they can always open my mind, because I'm like thinking in a constrained box because I have limited knowledge about this whole domain. However, since basically large language model knows everything, like it can provide some very inspiring and useful questions to allow me to explore. And I've been using that during the process of learning how to use and build AI, Katie, and also other other works. And I think that's a great use of AI.
Awesome. I have one more question. I turn it back over to you guys. I told everybody at the beginning they wouldn't have to listen to my congested voice. So I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. But what are some of your takeaways, guys? If somebody else wanted to do this kind of a project, if they wanted to build their own Katie, what are some of the things that you guys think they need to be mindful of or get a good grip on before they start?
There's a couple things, I think. One is your plan of how you're going to build something like this, because you can either deploy something like this that's cloud-based, like ChatGPT and GPT-4, or you can do it locally, but that's going to require some more computational power. And there's technically some, I'd say there's some more risks involved from a business standpoint if you're doing it locally, just because of there's a lot of open source models coming out, but there's not a lot of closed source models. And the closed source ones, the ones that tend to be rigorously tested and aligned with business needs. That's not, I don't think, the current case. You can't currently rely entirely on these things, but it's moving in that direction. So I think building these things out, we had to build out Katie, we had to basically take this project from GitHub, this Azure OpenAI open source project, and it's basically the starting point for building these things out. And so I've been working with another team member in this call here. Shout out to Chris, updating some of the UI things lately for that. And yeah, I think it's been a really cool experience being able to work on all the web development stuff at the same time. It's been like so fun.
Yeah, and I think another important point is the understanding of the purpose and objectives. So I think we need to clarify the specific goals of the conversational AI system, Katie, and is it meant to assist users in troubleshooting answer queries and providing general information. So we definitely need to clarify the purpose to guide the development process. For instance, we have the curse of knowledge, which means that we know what to ask AI because we're asking the questions to build this, to train this AI system. But the users might just be clients or our coworkers who know nothing about AI or technologies, and they may not know what to begin with. And you can expect your college friend to just know what to ask AI to know about this client project. So I think when you're training the Katie, you need to ask some maybe like silly questions to begin with.
No, yeah, and they probably do seem silly. Like I've had to come up with a bunch of like rigorous testing things for Katie's Q&A Excel sheet, and it probably just sounds funny asking the same things over and over. Oh, what about this year? What about that year? And if it's able to understand by continuing the conversation, if I just keep asking arbitrary questions, does it know what I'm talking about? So getting it to that point is really like was definitely, I think, the challenge, and has been super valuable that we've been able to get to this point. So
Yeah, and sometimes I will just ask some apparently wrong question and like to expect a like incorrect answer because I want to test if Katie will like make up random stuff. For instance, I
right.
will just ask, "What's the project we did for President Reagan?"
Right.
And fortunately, Katie didn't answer any mom related thing.
No, yeah. It would be funny if Katie would say something like, "Oh yeah, I have no idea who that is, but here's what I do know." Like, but yeah, no, Katie's been super cool. I'm really excited to see how how we can use it for minor machines, but also like how can this easily be like shared? Like how can other people start using Katie's in their own businesses? Like everyone should have a Katie. It's kind of great.
Yeah. And I think one of the main reason why mom is developing Katie is because we want to protect the valuable like client information. So we won't feeding our clients' information to ChatGPT or whatever. I think that's the most important point of building Katie.
Exactly. So like that's like that big challenge a lot of times with companies buying into AI is they're like, well, hey, look, if I use this, then well, I'm now adding extra risk to my life, right? These people are now have some responsibility over my data too. If I'm responsible for a client's data and then I'm using AI, well, now the AI knows the client's data and they're liable for, things. So I totally agree with you there. These things can keep everything in house, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how else we've been able to use Katie. What would you say your like favorite interaction with Katie has been?
I can think about it. How would you begin with this question?
Yeah, I think I was talking about it earlier. The inferencing with like Tim made some prompt with inferencing college like people. He wanted to make almost like a brochure, and since Katie wasn't even designed for that, but it had the intelligence, it was able to do it with our recording information, which I thought was super cool. I mean, that's probably my favorite interaction with it so far. But yeah, no, we've got like a 200 cell Excel Q&A testing thing. It's very in depth.
Yeah. I will still say the interesting interaction will be having Katie to provide some creative answers that were like not expected to be found in Katie's responses. And I think that's really mind-opening because, as we said, Katie was supposed to be trained as a simple Q&A tool, but then she can actually provide some creative ones.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. I'm really excited to see Katie improve over time because it's one of those things where it's like, here's where it's at now, and this is super awesome and exciting. It's like, man, I can't wait to see what Katie looks like next year. You know what I mean? I wonder what kind of things.
I'm definitely impressed
could help
by Katie's adaptability.
Definitely, yeah. Tim, do you want to maybe get us going on the next topic?
Well, I was going to ask if you guys want to move on to wins and talk about the wins this week.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll start with one. I started learning 2 tools this week, 2 programs. They're basically like front end development applications, kind of like VS Code, but that's more back end. So the applications I'm talking about, I'm going to be using Retool and this other application called Codex. So you can look them up, Retool, Codex. They're front end developing applications, and it's cool because they keep everything kind of broken up into boxes, different categories. So like we'll have components and objects and whatnot on one side, and then you have like an entire page on the right that is dedicated to the styling and CSS. And being able to have a workspace like that is very unique. And so that's probably my AI win this week is learning how to use Kodak, or what was it? Codex, yeah, and Retool, because they just have a bunch of really cool AI features that have been able to help me build some cool things. Sandra, what about you? Do you have any big AI wins?
Actually, before starting on my wings, I'm still curious about how do you use those like in real life applications?
Yeah, so Codex, I just started looking at this week because I found it on some YouTube video. But basically, I've been just creating a little basic landing page. It's been helping me learn. So Codex specifically is built off of React, that framework. So it's been helping me get more familiar with that language. I'm not someone with a ton of programming knowledge or programming prerequisite knowledge, so these things are like really valuable to me. And combined with AI, it's like it's really awesome. It feels like I can learn a bunch of things that I was previously just there was too many things stopping me from being able to. Or at least it felt that way. So I'm curious, what are your AI ones as well?
So this week there are like one biggest thing I learned is how to build a like the accounting side of a company statement is called DCF, and I just learned the concept, and it's fantastic that I can actually use the application and then go back to the concepts to go deeper, and then so I think this process made me to be really adapt to this concept. And another thing I achieved is that I've been producing some videos as well as tutorials for high school kids, for instance, how to apply for college, how to transfer college, and some campus tour, like
that's awesome.
Campus tour in Stanford, Brown, and Harvard, and those videos got like really high likes.
Awesome.
And yesterday, and like educational organization came to like hoping to buy my videos.
Did you use AI to like maybe like write some of the scripts for that, or how were you able to take advantage of AI?
Yeah, I use AI to give me some inspiring perspectives of the topic I want to do. For instance, I want to do campus tour. I'll just ask it what will be some aspect that people might be interested in knowing this college.
Right.
And that's very useful.
I think that also could be pretty useful for like a localization type of thing too. Like imagine, two people come from very different parts of the world but meet at the same college. You might want to use AI to kind of consider those people's backgrounds. If they have a unique background with a cultural acceptance of a specific thing, then you might find some value in having an AI system explain those differences and how you can mitigate things to make sure everyone has like an awesome time.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's hard for us to imagine a world that we've never been. So if I encounter someone with a totally like strange background and culture, then I may not know where to start with.
Right. Tim, were you about to hop in there? I saw your mic show up.
I was going to share my win here is this winter internship working with you guys. This has been quite the win for Mind Over Machines and for me. You guys have been great team members, and thank you for all you've done today in the Boring AI show, and thanks for all you've done for Mind Over Machines over the past few months here. You guys have been awesome.
Yeah, thank you too, Sam.
Big win. So
thank you so much. You've been so helpful and supportive.
Thank you. Are we ready to wrap up, guys?
I think we probably can wrap up unless you want to hear us, say the same stuff again.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today in the Boring AI show Intern Takeover. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget that we have the Boring AI show landing page. You can go listen to all previous Boring AI shows, and we'll be back in January with picking back up with the Boring AI show. So have a good new year, and we will see you next year. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
See ya.
Happy New Year, I guess.
Happy New Year.